not really seen this, so to try and give a definitive answer on this, I suppose I'd have to ask the coaches at grassroots level how they found it. There's a couple of things that spring to mind. Is one was ringing an alarm bell for me, and I thought, well, if it was with the younger ages, and a referee is putting a young player into a sin bin, how would that affect the young player mentally, in terms of his confidence, and whether he would really be up for coming back onto the pitch after 10 minutes. I'm presuming that they didn't start this at the young age, but they probably started it at the youth phase, or some older ages in that youth phase, before obviously feeding it or dropping it down to the younger ages. Well, I can see it working, because it would help with the discipline. As long as the referee is consistent in what he sees as a sin bin case before sending that player to the sin bin, because obviously the team is going to go down to 10 men. They might be trying to get back into the game, they might have a lead that they're trying to hold on to, so the tactics side of the game comes into it for both teams then, the opposition and the team that's lost the player, because the tactics have to play a big part in how they hold on to a lead or how they get back into a game with the player short. So I can see it affecting, or contributing to the players' development on those side of things. I'm open-minded. If it works, it works. It works in rugby at the top level, so why can't it work in football? Well, definitely it needs to be reviewed to stop it spoiling the game. I think it's here to stay. Definitely here to stay. There's so much money in the game now that it's definitely going to be here to stay. The problem I've seen it is sometimes the decisions have taken so long for the referee to make up his decision, and then sometimes he's gone over to the monitor. For me, if the monitor's there, he should be going to the monitor first. For me, only my opinion, and having a look at it straight away for him to make the decision before going up to the VAR. And if he needs the VAR and look at the monitor, he has to go to the monitor straight away while VAR are obviously reviewing it, and between them then they come to the decision. Some of the mistakes have happened, so for argument's sake, the questions of the handball, or and all of a sudden the opposition, the defending team has won the ball and gone right down the other end and scored a goal, and the referee can't stop the game because the ball's still in play. It then goes to VAR. The goal they scored down that end doesn't count, and it comes back up and it's a penalty. So there are going to be some hiccups in it, but I think for me, the speed of the game is what we don't want to slow down too much. Football's a great game. The fans love it. They love the speed it's played at, and the continuous movement in the game, and to keep stop start. I think can be a problem, but it's definitely here to stay. And I think upon reviewing, it can only get better. I think so. For me, it's a plus for me. Okay, let's look at it this way. For me, I think you've got to look at the word confidence and break it down. What is a confident player? It's something that a confident player is someone who's willing to take risks, doesn't let mistakes worry him, works hard, wants the ball always, and tries to be the best player he can possibly be. I asked the player once, I said, what gives you confidence? And he said, doing something well in the game. And I said, okay, I totally agree with that, but what if you don't do something well in the game till the 89th minute if it's a 90-minute game, the 79th minute if it's an 80-minute game? What if you don't do something well until the last couple of minutes in the game? What have you been doing all the way up to then? Does that tell me that you've been playing with no confidence whatsoever? All the way up until you've done something well. So, while done something well gives you confidence, I think it reinforces confidence. You're already confident going into a game, and should be, because of the mental imagery and all the things we spoke about before. doing something well in the game will just reinforce that confidence. Confidence also comes from seeing teammates do something well in the game. So somebody who makes that first tackle or makes that good pass or gets you into a position where you've scored a goal, that also builds up that confidence. So confidence is a massive part of the game. So how can a coach develop this in a practice? Repetition of passing and receiving skills, unopposed in game-related situations, and setting individual challenges. How can a coach develop it into a game? Well, praise at the right time in a game, encouragement at the right time in a game, in breaks in the game, encouraging his players and instilling in them that confidence, even if they're ahead or behind in the game, because they have to remain confident, otherwise they're never going to get back into the game. And I think giving the players homework challenges, setting them little homework challenges and little individual challenges so they can go away and work on aspects of the game that are going to give them confidence that they can then bring back into training and obviously transfer it from training into games. I think that's... Well, ball mastery is everything for me. Producing players who are technically bright in terms of controlling the ball with various parts of their body, and also being able to pass the ball over different types of passes over a range of distances is vital. Ball mastery for me is not somebody just juggling a ball 50 to 100 times. In all honesty, you don't juggle balls in a game, so I don't see how that relates to a game other than getting touches of the ball. But are they relevant touches? For me, relevant touches are balls coming at you from different heights, different speeds, so you have to control it with different parts of the body, different surfaces of the foot. So that for me is ball mastery in that. And that can be built into your practices. At academy level, we're very fortunate in that at the top level, say for argument's sake a Cat 1 academy, we'd have the players probably over 6 sessions a week. So ball mastery will play a big part of the percentage of the session in terms of maybe 15-20 minutes of each session. And don't forget, in academy football, every session is possibly 2 hours. Certainly an hour and a half, an hour and 3/4, never less than an hour and a half. So it would be a big part. For a grassroots coach, possibly doing a 1 hour session, ball mastery. I think it has to be brought into it and it's developed. So whether that's with a ball each, then a ball between 2, then a ball between 3, then into game related practices, that is all ball mastery, whichever session you're doing, or however your session progresses. It's all ball mastery. So ball mastery for me is 100% part of your session. 100% part of your session. Are you doing it continuously in a game? No, because obviously, unless it's a small-sided game where you're getting lots of touches of the ball, and for me small-sided games have to play a massive part in a player's development, well I think that yes, it's then going to be in every part of the session. More touches at the start, slightly less touches as you go through, but ball mastery is involved in every part of your session. So defining it of what a percentage of your session it should be, it's in every part really. It's just how many contact touches you have with the ball is governed by, at the start it's a ball each, so lots of contact time. Then it's got to be a ball between 2, passing between 2 over varied distances, receiving the ball on the various heights, under various pressures then in small-sided games because it's opposed, and you have to receive a ball under pressure because it affects your body shape on how you receive it, how you shield the ball, where does your first touch go, it affects your decision making. So it's a vital part of your session. How you develop it is down to you as the coach and how you use it. Based on the player's needs, some will need ball mastery more than others, and I think setting individual homework challenges will then help that for the individual player. pre-season training program for grassroots. So again, for grassroots it would be different to academy. Academies have the luxury of having a lot more contact time with their players. For 13s and 14s, let's go back into the earlier question, or the question one, about what were the key skills of working in the youth phase. 12s, you're bedding them into 11-a-side football. You've got the psychological problems of growth spurts, being the youngest kids in school now, as opposed to the oldest kids at under 11. So there's going to be a lot of pressure on them psychologically. And then technically at 13 and 14, they're now playing possibly in a preferred position, while still rotating in one or two other positions. So they're on a 2-year cycle now of learning, trying to get another 2-year contract at 15 and 16. So my sessions would be based around, I'd probably look at coming back, and I'm presuming that the grassroots would only have 1 session a week. So I would be looking at coming back possibly 5 to 6 weeks before the first fixture on the games program. And in 5 weeks, 5 sessions is enough. If I could get 2 sessions a week, I would be happy. If I'm stuck with 1 session a week, and I suppose kids going away on holidays and being ill and injured, it remains whether I'd have everybody in. But I would structure it around fitness sessions with the ball when they came back. So the appropriate warm-ups, lots of ball work, lots of different distances, so intense distances, extensive distances, so we're going from little to big, big to little, in terms of the intensity that we're working in. Small-sided games play a massive part in helping the fitness, and repetition. So I would build it up into a repetition of so many games at 4-a-side, where you're working for 2-minute blocks or 3-minute blocks, and then they're not getting the rest, and you're trying to work to maybe a one work to 2 rest, building up to 1 to 1 rest. There are different ways of devising sessions built around that, so you're getting an anaerobic workout and an aerobic workout in your sessions, which is vital. And then as you get closer towards the first game, you start building up in terms of everything playing out from the back with the ball, unit work, back 4 defending, unit work, midfield work. I think you've got to, wherever your players play, you have to understand and have a knowledge of the distances that they cover in a game. And those are the distances you have to work in your training sessions. If you're not replicating game-like situations in training, they're never going to get there in the game. So you have to replicate the game as much as possible in match-related situations in your training sessions. And you're just building up the intensity in each session, where you might have to have a light session 1 week if you've got 2 sessions a week to incorporate it. Running sessions, I think a lot of running sessions can be done with the ball now. You can do it in recovery sessions, getting back behind the ball. So the physical aspect is going to be there. The psychological aspect is definitely going to be there, and the tactical aspect is there, because you're the coach and you're devising those sessions accordingly. So I think that is a rough idea. Obviously there's a curriculum in place. You'd be working to a curriculum which would have a pre-season program in it, ideally. If you're at a club and you can plan that, if you have a club that's got ages from 9s all the way up to 16s, which I'm presuming you are working at, well then there would be a curriculum in place with a pre-season program in place for each age group. You would pair it up accordingly with the 9s and 10s, the 11s and 12s, 12s being 9-a-side going into 11-a-side, 13s and 14s, and the 15s and 16s. And the intensity is gradually built up based on the demands of the game and the needs of the players. And in some stage in your pre-season program, you would need to make sure that you try and arrange some friendly matches, so you're building up a match fitness as well as a training fitness. And then when you get into your games program, well then you're on the road and running, you're into your season now. If you actually needed to look at a guide of a curriculum in place, a pre-season one, I can draw up a pre-season program, and I'll get it to Kai and Ben, and we can get that out, I'm sure, to the coaches, which will help you anyway as well. Okay? So. The best session, right, I mean it's simple. The best session you deliver is one that the players have listened to, have understood the topic of the session, have understood the demands of the session, and have then gone out and put into practice what you're asking them to do to get the relevant outcomes of the session. And I think you, as a coach, you're lucky if that you get times when you do pitch it right. The players take on board what you're asking them to do. They then go out and apply themselves the right way, so the relevant outcomes that you want from the session are there, and that for me is a good session. Does it always go like that? No, it doesn't. We're back to being adaptable and flexible as a coach, to be able to change things and understand through observation that, well, it's not working. Why is it not working? Have I pitched it too hard? Is it too soft? Is it just the players' lack of concentration? Well, then I need this to break it down again. Go back into a game. Let them play a game for a brief period of time. Now go back to what I want the session to be. Break the session down again into these various parts, so that I can then get the outcome that I want in the match at the end of the session again. And we're back to the skills of the coach. So, very fortunate when you're working with elite players, you do get a majority of good sessions. But don't forget, in those good sessions, some players will be getting more out of it than others, because obviously they're not at the same level. And I think then it's down to you as the coach, in the feedback you give to the player at the end of that session, on what he needs to go away and work on, based around what he showed you. And some will and it'll all be different challenges, because they're all at different levels of development. So I hope that's answered roughly about what a good session is, really. I suppose if you're looking at that, you're asking really, what do I look for in a player? I take it that you're looking for me. I'm looking for the outcomes of the player. Obviously, roles and responsibilities. Am I coaching that into him the right way? Does he understand that? And I thought, so I'm looking at it from two ways. I'm a coach who's coaching. I'm looking for the players who've got an appreciation of what they need to do, whether they're playing right back, centre mid, defensive mid, attacking mid, wide right, wide left, centre forward, number 10 position. Do they understand their role and responsibilities? Are they progressing and developing? What do I need to do to improve that player as an individual? And then hopefully collectively we'll get that an individual performance, but within the confines of a team performance. If I'm actually scouting players, when I go out to look at players, I suppose the first thing that strikes me when I'm looking at a player is he athletical? Has he got good balance coordination? Good movement off the left foot, off the right foot, good balance, as I said. Technically, has he got a good first touch? Can he pass the ball? Types of pass, distances of passing, range of passing. Has he got speed? Over 10, 15, 20 metres? Has he got good stamina, good powers of recovery? What's he like mentally? Is he a good mixer? Has he got leadership qualities? Is he a team player? Is he coachable? If the coach is saying something to him, does he respond to it in the right way? Or is he somebody that just ignores the coach and pulls the shutters down whenever the coach talks to him? So there's two ways of looking at it. So I'm a coach observing the squad of players I've got. Well, they're all individuals. I'm looking to see if they're all progressing at the right rate or not, so they won't be. But what do I need to give this player is going to be different to what I need to give this player and what I need to give this player. So it's back to the skills of the coach, identifying the player's needs based around the demands of the game and their individual needs. So I can try and give them the best chance of getting to where they want to be. If I'm going out in a scouting capacity, I think I've just covered what I'm really looking for in the player, really. And I suppose the bias in it comes in. There's a big thing now in looking at a player's age as well, and biobanding has played a big part in the development of players, where you've got a player who's a September birth. He's going to be bracketed in the early maturers because of his age. It's the start of the season, September, so he's one of the oldest players. But really, he might be one of the late developers in terms of mentally, in terms of technically and tactically. And I'll give you a little example. Very fortunate at Southampton in James Ward-Prowse's year, who were an exceptional squad of players. We scored 10. From a squad of 16, we scored 10. Unheard of. Only ever happened to me once before, and that was at Cardiff, when we had 10 Welsh internationals in the squad, and we scored all of them. But very rarely does that come along. And in that squad of players, James Ward-Prowse's year, we had Harrison Reed and Dom Gape, two of the smallest players in the squad, but mentally tough, technically good, tactically good. I didn't need to bioband them and move them down. In fact, their projected height was never going to be more than 5'8", 5'9". So if I'd have tried to play them down to look after them against the bigger players, they would have said to me, "Terry, why are you doing this? I'm never going to learn. I'm never going to be the biggest player, and for me to progress as a player, I have to play against the biggest and the best. So I don't want to play down." So as a coach, you have to weigh up then the player who's that type of player, and they were in the early bracket of when they were born, in terms of September, October, November. You might have a player there who's not confident enough and mentally not strong enough to handle it. Technically he's good enough, but he can't deal with it mentally. There's the case for putting him down a year. Alex Chamberlain was a mentally tough player, technically good enough, but just couldn't cope with the physical aspect. And we kept him back a year. And because we did, he really kicked on. He bypassed the youth phase and was straight into the first team at 17. There was no holding him back, and because he was frail, he'd not matured into his shape. Harrison Reed, Dom Gape were sturdier types of players in terms of their physical growth. Alex was a very little small player, and then when we kept him back a year, and with the multidisciplinary work that we got into him with the S&C guys, his body shape changed dramatically. His strength was unbelievable, and he bypassed the youth phase and went straight into the first team. So I think when you look at that and how you work out what players you're looking for, you have to take into account their age, their mental maturity, their mental toughness, if you like, their physical strength. Can they cope with it? And the only bias that we had at Southampton was, I'm not sure if it's still a philosophy there now, if they were going to be centre-backs, they had to have a projected height of 6'2", and if they were going to be goalkeepers that were going to get into the first team, they had to have a projected height of 6'2" as well. It might still be in place, but does that matter in the grand scheme of things now? I'm not so sure. I'm really not now in the modern game. Do you have to be 6'2" to be a centre back? Is 6'1" good enough? So 6 foot good enough? Is 5'11" good enough? I mean, look at Mascherano, 5'9", 10 at the most. Centre back, can play centre back. Look at Iker Casillas, goalkeeper who was never bigger than 5'10", earned a great and fantastic living in the game. World Cup winner, European Cup winner. So who's to say? I guess it's based around the philosophy of the club you're working with and what their demands are in terms of specific players they're looking for in positions, in certain positions. Personally, I don't have a bias. If I see a good player and he's a big player, that's great, that's a bonus. If I see a good little player, you know, that's still a bonus to me. It's about being able to control the ball, having the technical ability to be able to pass the ball over long ranges or different ranges of distance, and also being a clever tactician. The game is played in here. You're not 6'2" in here, that's for sure. So you can overcome a bias on size, if you like, if you're cute and clever. Well, I hope I've answered them in the right way, or the best way that gives you some insight into my thoughts on coaching and how we develop young players. And I wish you all the best in your future coaching careers.